I think I could kill you. I got why I come, Mom.
Hi, everyone. This is God Talk for July 10th, 2025. I'm so happy to see you all here. We're talking about accessibility, particularly about Disability Pride and Deaf Awareness Week. And so let's get started with our icebreaker. We say the name we want to be called, our pronouns, and the answer to an icebreaker question, which Leo is going to give us.
Okay, go.
Everybody, my name is Leo. Pronouns are he, him. And today's icebreaker is, what is a video game or board game that you dominated as a kid? For me, it would have to be Monopoly.
Oh.
It would have to be Monopoly.
Yeah, numbers. Let me see. Hi, my name's Jared. Pronouns are all of them. Let me see. And for board games, I would say, was Scrabble technically? Yeah, Scrabble's a board game. Yeah, like I was pretty good at Scrabble.
Yeah, you still dominate every single time we play.
Thank you, babe.
Suzette, you want to go next?
I am Suzette, she, her. And man, there's a tie in my world. It's either Chutes and Ladders or Candyland. Okay. Those were my two games. And yeah, I dominated.
Wow.
The dominatrix
Candyland,
of
so
Candyland.
I'm gonna have to think of something besides Candyland now. Okay. All right, Lynn.
She, her, and it was Monopoly. That was it. It was Monopoly.
All right, Kreger.
My name is Kreger, he, they, and I dominated at Yahtzee.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Next. Oh my goodness. Okay, Marco.
Okay, get kidding. I got a bite. Yep. Bye, king. You go.
Oh no, that's a good one.
Uno.
Uno? Oh, yeah.
A card game instead of a board game, but we'll take it. We all agree we'll take it.
Yeah.
All right. I'm Carol, she, her, and all of those were good ones. We had a special Monopoly game that was my mom was a realtor in Lubbock, Texas, and so it was called Lubbockopoly. And and it had like Nita Kiesling Realtors as one of the as one of the little squares, and it was just awesome. So anyway, so I'm glad I got to talk about that. That's a fond memory. What is it, Marco?
Oh, wait. You about waiting? I need it.
No, you're all right, babe. So Marco's gonna stay back there due to germs. So anyway, hope y'all can see him and hear him okay. Anyway, so this is Disability Pride Month, and this is Deaf Awareness Week. So I want to talk first. Well, I want to talk primarily at the start about deaf awareness, and we may get to some other subjects. But first, let me say, what do you think a person with a disability might have to be proud about? What is disability pride all about?
What?
Their accomplishments.
Pardon?
Their accomplishments.
Yeah. Yeah, and just their personhood, maybe resilience in the face of meeting obstacles and challenges to accessibility. Yeah. Okay. one of the things that I see a lot in on some of the pages that I follow about disability rights, about accessibility, has to do with universal the universal benefits of accessibility. Things like, you know, how curb cutouts make it easier for not just people in wheelchairs, but also people with parents with strollers or people with luggage. You know, it's just so much easier for so many people. People who have trouble, people who are ambulatory but have trouble walking up a step. So, you know, these kind of things are really beneficial for everybody. And I like to put when I get those ads for like switching your tub out to a walk-in shower. I'm like, why would you ever build a walk-in shower when you could build a roll-in shower? It costs the same. It just takes a little bit of imagination. Why in the heck what don't we build them all as roll-in showers? And maybe one of the reasons that this topic came to mind is because we had so many issues on the way at the general conference, which we just returned from. Are you going to talk about accessibility?
Yeah.
Real quick. Yeah, everything was really hot. So, but there were some things like at the hotel that I think affected everybody. Just like, I mean, who in the heck would build outdoor elevators with glass panels in Phoenix with no air conditioning? It was like, I mean, it's like getting in an oven. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. But the thing we had the most trouble with in Phoenix was just not having automatic doors. And that's one thing churches, you know, it's pretty easy to do something about, just especially for like Sunday morning services or big meetings or things like that. And that's just having an usher at the door or something to help with opening the door. But well, another thing that we had trouble with at hotels, we've had this problem over and over, and I think one chain of hotels is worse than some of the other ones. But like we just drove until we couldn't drive anymore on the way back and stopped in Albuquerque, and I'd called about an hour before and made sure we had accessible rooms with like a roll-in shower. And we got to this hotel, and it was gigantic, very, very spread out around a big atrium. And the lady assured us that yes, these are accessible rooms. And and she told us where to park to get to the closest door. And I try to find a parking place, and there's no curb cut out for, you know, like a block, like a city block. And then we get up, we have trouble getting into the door. We finally go back and park near the lobby and wind our way back around and get into the rooms. And there's no roll-in shower. There's the shower with the glass doors, and that, you know, and they open kind of toward the back. So, and then the door to the bathroom opens backwards. So like the toilet's here and the door is like 2 inches from the toilet. You know, I hate when they do that, even in restroom stalls, because that means a person, even a thin ambulatory person, has to just go over and stand beside the toilet in order to get the door shut. And that's the only way to get into the shower. And there's a big lip, and the glass doors only open this much. I mean, it's just a ridiculous design. And if they just put the door the other way, it wouldn't have been bad. But the thing that I think made me the most upset, we had to go all the way we had to go all the way back to the lobby, and we didn't want to get back in the car. So we tried to find our way back to the lobby and ended up having to go through like 4 sets of doors and, made some wrong turns. We finally make it back to the lobby. And the thing is, the girl at the front desk just kept saying, well, this is on my list of accessible rooms. I was like, and
It
that's
says
what's
it.
done to us at many, many hotels in the past. And that costs nothing to train your staff about which rooms are accessible, which rooms have a roll-in shower, if any rooms have a tub, whatever. It just doesn't take anything. It just takes a little bit of openness and acknowledgement to do that. So in case I'm losing some of y'all, let me talk a little bit about what's the besides just like the universal. Yes, Suzette?
Oh, I just was gonna ask, are there any hotels that do it really right? Like, is there a brand that you have experienced that
Well,
does?
um well, of course some of the pricier brands are more reliable, but what I see on some of the travel blogs is that Hilton will guarantee the accessibility of a room. So you're much more likely, you're not going to get there and have a big surprise.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Then you're paying for what's not a convenience, it's a necessity.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but you would think, and I don't know why hotels um won't put things like that, like what the bathroom looks like. I don't know why they won't include that in a view of a room.
mhm.
That just that seems like that would be a really easy thing to put on their websites. And so, I would really like to advocate for that. But even in rooms that do have like a roll-in shower, a lot of times there's just so many things that don't work. Like you might, like they might have one of those long, showers that are obviously just where a tub used to be, and they'll maybe have a bench that is way on this end and all the controls on this end, and like a shower head that is adjustable if you can reach, you know like sometimes I have trouble reaching them. Even I'm a pretty average height, and even with my arm fully outstretched and standing up, I have trouble reaching him. So what is a person in a wheelchair or a shower chair gonna do? Or if they're trying to sit on that bench, then they still have to stand up to and those a lot of hotels are going to the bottles, which are more ecological, that have the shampoo and everything. And they even in the roll-in showers, they put them way up high where a person could never reach them if they were seated. So, there's just lots of silly things like that. One of the things, um,
I was going to make a comment that we're also an aging population, right? And so even though maybe we haven't experienced having a disability in our lives, as we age, everything changes because Christy's mom can't walk without a walker now. And I mean, at all, she cannot walk without it. And it's every time we go somewhere, we have to consider whether or not she can go. And it feels horrible sometimes. Like she wanted to go help make sandwiches today for the Kerrville people with me, and um, they called ahead and there was nowhere for them to sit. So, not that that was really a concern that they should have had because it was a volunteer situation, but she gets told no a lot because there's no
I
way
think, yeah,
for her to
if
get
Oprah
somewhere.
had, yeah, volunteer situations as well. I wish
Just
there are so many
restaurants.
situations that, and Marco has, I'm noticing a lot more now that I'm using a wheelchair. There are so many things, especially when Marco was little and he uses a manual chair, and it's not that hard to get him over a curb. Um, but a power chair can't get over a curb. And a power chair can't get over a little gap in the, you know, I mean, wheels get stuck pretty easily. Things fall off of a sidewalk, and a whole person with a, you know, with a very, very heavy power chair can get hurt really easily by some of those things. But I mean, a lot of things. There's even there's a children's museum that has absolutely no option for access. But Marco got into it because he happens to have one very strong caregiver that can basically lift his whole wheelchair down a bunch of steps. But that's not fair. That's not right. You know what I mean? There were a lot. What Suzette was saying, um, the the way that I think about it is that disability, people with disabilities, that's the one marginalized group that anybody can fall into at any point in their lives. It's possible that any of us could fall into that at any point. So I'm glad you brought that up, Suzette. Yes.
I'm always amazed. I mean, it has nothing to do with politics, and I don't have anything positive to say but about a person, but his ability to get places and do things. I mean, I think about Greg Abbott. I mean, he probably has to get up at 4 in the morning to get dressed and to, bathe and do all that stuff. And it always looks like he has no issues, right? But he's got to have a lot of help, and he could probably afford all that help. So
Exactly. So why does he enact so much legislation?
that was my point. But it always amazes me though that he's everywhere. It seems like.
Yeah.
Anyway, he has some advantages, obviously.
Yeah. And so I guess you could see Marco's ability to get certain places as a little bit of privilege in this world that some people don't have. But let's look at this from kind of a values standpoint. I think most of the things that we talk about here have to do with justice issues and inclusion. They have to, gay pride, we talked about being a lot about self-dignity, respect, and rights, as well as rights. I mean, but it's also about learning to define ourselves. And disability is kind of the same thing, not being, learning that dignity of not being less than. Not and inclusion, we talk in our churches about a radical welcome. And why do we do that? I think one piece of that is Imago Dei, the fact that we're all created in God's image. What does it mean for a person with disability to be created in God's image? That's interesting to think about that. The face of God in a disabled person. We've brought that up a little bit before. So I think that's why our churches, why we talk about things like a radical welcome. And so I want to talk a little bit about specifically what Resurrection does really well. And I have not found a single church anywhere online that does an ASL ministry as well as Resurrection. I mean, and well, I've been to a deaf church before. I used to go quite regularly to a deaf church in Amarillo until their theology kind of hit me over the head and I had to leave. but it was a very good experience in terms of the ASL, and there I met the only pastor or only person I've ever known who could really speak and sign for themselves at the same time. So that's quite an impressive skill that almost no one has. But I want to share with you some of the things that there are some things that I learned being adjacent to the deaf community, being partnered to a deaf person in the past, um, that I may not have been aware that I probably never would have known some of these things, like um, like I guess I just assumed that most deaf people could understand written English, um, for example. And I think there are some people that don't even realize that ASL and English are two completely different languages with completely different grammar and syntax and punctuation and everything. English, signed English is a completely different animal than ASL, and most deaf people do not know signed English. Thank goodness. It's not really good for psyches. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you know the difference? Um, like the example I often see used is that ASL is very visual. Some of you have taken some ASL classes, right? Um, um, like
Resurrection has offered them from time to time.
yeah,
Yes.
like this is the sign for butterfly. It's very visual and beautiful. But with signed English, you might make the sign for butter and the sign for fly like an airplane flies. It has nothing to do with it. You have to know English before you would understand that. And I just there I think at Resurrection, most of the most of the deaf people who have come to church know English very well. But I mean, you do have to understand that if somebody is born deaf or becomes deaf very early in life, then English is a second language. It is not easy to learn. It is not easy for anybody that, English is just not that easy of a language to learn. And so sign language is very, very different. Um, and so, I mean, closed captions, those kind of things only help people with um, a very good understanding of English. And lip reading is something that even the best lip readers miss a very high percentage. I think like 40% of what is being said. It is really easy to miscommunicate. So churches and church services, sermons, those kind of things are all about communication. They're all about sharing God's word, and so I think communication is really, really important. So Resurrection started out with just some like signers just for deaf people. I've seen a lot of churches which, like, the deaf person almost has to bring their own signer. Like somebody will get up and sign if this deaf person shows up. And otherwise they might not even come to church if they don't know that that person's coming. But Resurrection now has such an active ministry that I think a deaf person could show up and just be very participatory in the service. One of the things that changed is that the signer used to just be on a platform with a over on the side in front of the deaf people, and it was the deaf people themselves who said, can't you at least, like during communion, couldn't you be up by the person who's consecrating so that we wouldn't have to like look back, back and forth, back and forth. And then they said, how about the songs? And then it evolved because the deaf people said, we want we want that kind of personal participation, and that's what it takes. And I was really reminded of that at General Conference when I was trying to watch the signers, and they were on the floor. So if you were more than a couple of rows back, you oftentimes couldn't see them. And the action on the stage was oftentimes way over here. And there was a screen there, but it was a pretty blurry picture. And so it is really hard to participate if I was relying completely on sign language, I would have missed about 90% of what was going on. You know what I mean? And that's just not acceptable. Suzette?
So, our Carol and I had a conversation earlier about her doing the sermon on July 20th, which she's going to record. And she brought up the fact that she wanted to have someone sign along with that. And I brought up the fact that, there we could do closed captions, and we both decided that closed captions aren't imperfect science because they are imperfect. So with Zoom, you can go back